There is always one defining moment in every connection where the balance shifts. A moment when desire transforms into commitment, when attraction evolves into devotion. Many chase it desperately, yet miss the very move that makes the difference. Today, you'll discover the one powerful move that doesn't just capture attention, but makes him imagine a lifetime with you. The power of emotional detachment is something most people misunderstand. Many think it means being cold, distant, or acting like you don't care. But in reality, true detachment comes from a place of inner security and self-worth. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that your happiness is not dependent on anyone else's actions, words, or approval. When you carry this energy, you become magnetic because you are no longer chasing, no longer needy, and no longer desperate to hold on. Instead, you stand firm in the belief that you are enough as you are, with or without a promise of forever. This is what instantly shifts the dynamic in a relationship. When a man feels that your emotions are not tied to his every move, he becomes curious, then invested, and eventually addicted to earning your devotion. Emotional detachment is not about ignoring him or pretending to be unavailable. It is about valuing yourself so deeply that you never place your identity in his hands. Think about it. When you are overly attached, every text, every call, every action from him becomes a measure of your worth. You wait, you hope, you overthink, and without realizing it, you give him all the power. But when you detach, when you remind yourself that your value does not rise or fall with his attention, the power shifts back to you. He begins to feel that he must earn his place in your world. This feeling, this subtle pressure, is what triggers his instinct to secure you permanently. What makes detachment so irresistible is that it creates mystery. Instead of revealing every emotion, every thought, and every vulnerability at once, you hold a part of yourself back. You remain unpredictable, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that shows you have a life, a purpose, and a spirit that is not completely tied to him. This draws him closer because men crave the challenge of discovery. They don't beg for what is easy, they fight for what feels rare. And your detachment communicates that you are rare, that your love is a treasure not to be taken lightly. So when you master this one move, emotional detachment, you don't have to force him to commit. You don't have to demand promises. He will offer them willingly because the fear of losing you becomes stronger than the comfort of keeping things casual. That is the power that makes him beg to make you his forever. Showing feminine confidence without seeking validation is one of the most powerful moves you can make. It's the difference between waiting for him to notice you and knowing you're unforgettable whether he does or not. True confidence isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, grounded, and magnetic. It's the way you walk into a room without needing everyone's approval, the way you hold eye contact without flinching, and the way you know your worth without anyone having to remind you. This kind of energy is irresistible because it creates a presence that lingers. A man can forget words, he can forget moments, but he cannot forget the feeling of being around a woman who embodies this kind of confidence. Validation seeking is where most women give away their power. The constant need for reassurance, the endless questioning of, do you love me? Do you see a future with me? Or am I good enough? Weakens the bond instead of strengthening it. It teaches him that he doesn't need to step up because you are already giving him everything while asking him to convince you of your value. Confidence flips this dynamic. When you don't need him to validate you, when you already see yourself as desirable, intelligent, and worthy, he feels compelled to match that belief. He wants to rise to your level, to prove that he is worthy of standing beside a woman like you. This kind of confidence also shows up in your boundaries. You don't chase when he pulls back. You don't shrink yourself to be liked. You don't beg for a title or lower your standards just to keep him close. Instead, you trust that your presence is enough, and if he cannot recognize it, someone else will. That quiet strength communicates that you are not afraid of loss because you trust in your own ability to attract love. And ironically, That's exactly what makes him terrified to lose you. Men are wired to admire what feels valuable, and nothing communicates value louder than confidence. It's not about beauty, it's not about perfection, it's about the way you carry yourself when you don't need his approval, when he feels that energy radiating from you. He doesn't think about dating forever. He thinks about securing you before someone else does. He begins to imagine a lifetime with you, not because you ask, but because your confidence made him realize you're the kind of woman he cannot risk letting slip away. Showing feminine confidence without seeking validation is a subtle art that completely transforms the way he sees you. Confidence is not about being the loudest person in the room or demanding attention. It is the calm assurance that you are enough, with or without his approval. When you embody this energy, you stop chasing and start attracting. The truth is, the more you look for validation from someone, the more power you give them over your emotions. Every unanswered text, every delayed call, every change in tone begins to control how you feel. That is the trap many fall into. But when you detach from the need for validation and instead anchor yourself in self-worth, everything changes. You radiate a magnetic presence that silently communicates, "I know who I am, and I don't need you to confirm it." That feeling is irresistible because it sets you apart from the rest. A woman who doesn't seek validation is unpredictable in the best way. She is not shaken by minor disagreements. She is not desperate for constant reassurance, and she is not afraid of space. This makes him curious, almost addicted to finding ways to get closer. Instead of you asking him for words of affirmation, he starts chasing opportunities to prove himself to you. He feels the need to win your trust, your attention, and your devotion because deep down, men crave challenges. When something feels too easy, it's taken for granted. But when he senses that you value yourself enough not to bend for validation, he begins to view you as rare, and rare things are always worth keeping. This type of confidence also sets the tone in the relationship. Instead of clinging tighter when he pulls away, you stand tall. Instead of overthinking when he gets distant, you focus on yourself, your goals, and your happiness. That composure tells him that your world doesn't revolve around him, and suddenly he starts revolving around you. He begins to realize that losing you would mean losing a woman who knows her worth, a woman he may never find again. That realization awakens his deepest instinct to secure you permanently. Confidence, when paired with grace, doesn't just attract him, it makes him respect you. Respect is the foundation of commitment, and without it, love fades. So when you show that you don't need his validation, you don't just capture his heart, you capture his loyalty. And in that loyalty, he begins to imagine a future where he doesn't have to risk losing you, because he knows another man would marry you in an instant. Demonstrating value through boundaries, not availability, is the silent move that makes the difference between being desired for the moment and being desired for a lifetime. Many women believe that giving more, being endlessly available, and always saying yes will secure love. But the opposite is true. The more you bend, the more you sacrifice without limits, the more he begins to feel entitled instead of grateful. What truly ignites long-term desire is when you have clear boundaries that show your value. Boundaries are not walls, they are the lines that define what you will and will not accept. They tell him without words that you respect yourself enough to be selective. And when you respect yourself, he has no choice but to respect you. Think about it. If you are always available, always dropping everything for him, always saying yes no matter the situation, what message does that send? It tells him that your time, your energy, and even your love are easily taken. But when you guard those things carefully, when you decide who is worthy of your time, when you protect your energy from being drained, he feels the difference. He sees that being in your life is a privilege, not a right. That privilege is what makes him value you more deeply. Men commit to what they value, and they value what they must earn. Boundaries also test his intentions. A man who is only around for convenience will disappear the moment he realizes you won't accept crumbs. But the man who truly wants you will rise to meet your standards. Your no will not push him away, it will inspire him to step up. This is why boundaries are powerful. They filter out the weak and draw in the strong. And the strong man, the one who is serious about you, will see your boundaries as a sign of self-worth, not rejection. What makes this move irresistible is that it places you in a position of power without aggression. You don't need to argue, you don't need to demand, you simply stand firm in your standards. That quiet strength creates admiration, and admiration breeds commitment. He knows he cannot play games with you. He knows he cannot take advantage of your kindness. And he knows that in order to keep you, he must offer more. And when he realizes that being with you requires effort and respect, he doesn't just want you temporarily. He begins to imagine making you his forever. Making him invest emotionally by stepping back at the right moment is one of the most subtle yet powerful moves you can ever master. Relationships thrive on balance, and when one person gives endlessly while the other only receives, the bond becomes lopsided. Many women pour in constant affection, attention, and energy, believing that the more they give, the more secure the connection will be. But in reality, overgiving often has the opposite effect. It makes him comfortable, sometimes even complacent, because he feels no urgency to reciprocate. That is where stepping back, gently but firmly, changes everything. When you step back, you allow space for him to miss you, to reflect, and to realize the depth of what you bring into his life. That pause is not rejection, it's an invitation for him to step forward. Emotional investment comes when he feels the gap between your presence and your absence. When you are constantly there, he doesn't get the chance to measure how important you truly are. But when you create a little distance, whether by focusing on your own goals, spending time with loved ones, or simply not chasing, he begins to feel that emptiness. The silence becomes louder than words, and the longing pushes him to act. It is in that moment that he chooses to invest, not because you asked him to, but because his emotions drive him to. That shift makes his efforts authentic, and authenticity is what deepens the bond. Stepping back also teaches him responsibility in the relationship. If he wants your time, he must earn it. If he wants your attention, he must reciprocate it. If he wants your love, he must nurture it. By not overcompensating or over-giving, you create a natural balance where he learns that his actions matter. And when he invests emotionally, when he gives from his own heart, it strengthens his attachment to you. The truth is, people value what they pour themselves into. When he invests in you, you stop being just someone he enjoys. You become someone he can't imagine losing. This move is not about manipulation or playing games. It's about honoring yourself enough to not do all the work in the relationship. It's about giving him space to step up and prove himself. And when he does, the emotional connection he feels is so strong that the idea of marriage stops being a question. It becomes the natural conclusion, the only way to secure what he now deeply treasures. Radiating self-worth that makes commitment the only option is a force that cannot be ignored. Self-worth is not about arrogance, it is not about showing off, and it is never about proving yourself to anyone. It is the quiet belief that you are enough as you are, that you bring value to every room you walk into, and that love is something you deserve, not something you have to beg for. When you embody this, you shift the way a man sees you. He no longer views you as someone temporary, someone he can treat casually, or someone he can take for granted. Instead, he begins to see you as a woman of substance, a woman whose presence demands respect and whose energy demands loyalty. That awareness plants the seed of commitment in his mind, because losing you would mean losing someone irreplaceable. Self-worth shows in the smallest actions. It is how you respond when he tests boundaries, how you carry yourself when he becomes distant, and how you refuse to compete for attention. It's the way you choose to walk away from disrespect rather than lowering yourself just to keep him close. A woman who radiates this kind of self-worth makes it clear, without saying a word, that she will never accept less than she deserves. That silent declaration creates urgency in him because he knows that if he doesn't step up, someone else will. And that realization forces him to choose between being casual or committing deeply. The beauty of self-worth is that it doesn't need validation. You don't need constant praise, constant reassurance, or constant proof that he loves you. You know who you are and what you bring to the table. That independence is magnetic because men are drawn to women who don't rely on them for identity. Instead of clinging, you shine. Instead of begging, you inspire. Instead of waiting, you build. And this energy is what makes him imagine a future with you, because he sees that your love is a gift, not a need. When you radiate self-worth, you don't force commitment, you inspire it. He feels it in the way you move, in the way you speak, in the way you carry yourself. It's not just your beauty that captures him, it's the way you value yourself that makes him want to value you even more. And when a man feels that when he knows he could lose someone who loves herself enough to never settle, marriage stops being an option. It becomes his only choice. Creating the feeling that marrying you is his idea, not your demand, is the final and most powerful move. Men are naturally wired to pursue, to conquer, and to claim what they value. When commitment feels like pressure, when it feels like an ultimatum, it often backfires. He may agree out of fear, but in his heart, he won't feel that it's truly his choice. What makes a man beg to marry you is when he believes it was his decision all along, when the thought of securing you for life blooms in his own mind, not because you asked, but because your presence left him no other option. The art here lies in allowing space for him to connect the dots on his own, while you continue to live with confidence and self-respect. This doesn't mean you never express what you want, it means you don't demand it. You don't chase him with questions like, "Where is this going?" or "When will you propose?" Instead, you embody the qualities of a woman who is already complete. You carry yourself as someone who would be a blessing in any man's life, but you never beg to be chosen. That shift in energy makes him feel that keeping you is his responsibility, not your request. And when a man feels responsibility out of desire, not force, his commitment becomes unshakable. The psychology behind this is simple. People value decisions they make on their own far more than decisions that are forced upon them. If you push too hard, he may resist just to prove his independence. But if you lean back and let your presence do the work, he begins to feel that marriage is the natural progression. He looks at you and sees stability, grace, confidence, and irreplaceable value. Slowly, the idea of you being with someone else starts to bother him. That discomfort grows into urgency, and urgency transforms into action. When he finally takes that step, he won't feel tricked, pressured, or cornered. He will feel proud, as though he won the greatest prize of his life. And that pride matters because it makes the commitment stronger. It was his idea, his choice, his mission to claim you. That is the beauty of this move. It leaves him believing that he pursued you until the end, when in reality your self-worth, your boundaries, and your quiet confidence guided him exactly where you wanted him to be. And once he reaches that place, marriage is not just his choice, it becomes his deepest need.